Can anyone explain why the Ghostbusters cartoon was called The Real Ghostbusters?
Yes.
Not so fast, anyone but Jeff!
You monster!
I think I know this one, actually.
Okay. Good. Who wants to do it? Get on the point and explain it.
You.
All right. So maybe you can fact check
Who
it,
did
Dan,
that?
if you know.
Okay.
Because they're dead to me.
They called it The Real Ghostbusters because there was already a cartoon called Ghostbusters. And it sucked hard. And so the title was claimed, so when they went to make the cartoon for Ghostbusters, they were like, how is this legal? And they had to call it something else, so it was The Real Ghostbusters, right?
Is there
that correct?
more?
It's close.
Let's hear from Dan.
It's very close.
I was gonna. That was basically what I was gonna say.
Do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay.
The other cartoon had a gorilla in it.
Yeah, that's right. And its name was Tracy, and there was also a Spencer involved apparently in this as well. So the cartoon The Ghostbusters was by Nirvana, which is a Canadian outfit, and it was based on an old movie called The Ghostbusters. I don't believe they had a monkey in that or an ape or anything in that, but it was two guys who comedically did a thing and busted ghosts. And then of course when Ghostbusters all one word came out in the 1980s, and that was the big property. It's like, well, we're going to make a cartoon out of Ghostbusters surely at some point, but then Nelvana's like, we're going to make The Ghostbusters, and we can buy the rights to that name, which meant that Ghostbusters couldn't use that name to make a cartoon because Nelvana already owned it, and so they had to call themselves The Real Ghostbusters for two reasons. One, because it was allowed, they could trademark that, and two, because they actually were The Real Ghostbusters. Oh, they did have an ape, or a man in an ape suit.
And it was Filmation, not Nelvana.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And, I don't...
Did I get it?
Close. You got it
Finish
super
it.
close.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so in the 70s, there was a live-action television series by Filmation called The Ghostbusters, as we see in the chat here, with Tracy the gorilla. The person inside the suit was credited as the trainer of Tracy.
Wow.
Now, when they were making, or when Dan Aykroyd and them wrote Ghostbusters, they wanted to use the name Ghostbusters, but it was already, it already belonged to Filmation.
Sure.
So they had a bunch of other names like, Ghost Chasers, Ghost Grabbers, but nothing sounded as good as Ghostbusters. So they made a deal with Filmation, got the rights to use the name for the movie, but they didn't secure television rights for it. And then the movie was a huge success, and Filmation said, hey, why don't you let us make an animated cartoon for you? Because we're Filmation, that's what we do now. Right. Because He-Man, we're making bonkers money, you guys, and so are you. Let's make bonkers money together. And they're like, nah, we're gonna do our own thing. And then Filmation's like, oh, are you? Well, nuts to you. We're putting out our own cartoon called Ghostbusters based on our series, and you can't use the name Ghostbusters. So Ghostbusters is like, okay, we'll be The Real Ghostbusters, but there's more.
Okay.
You see, because then they used The Real Ghostbusters as a series kind of, as like the edit for the series. It's basically, the animated series are The Real Ghostbusters. The movie is based on The Real Ghostbusters.
I saw that episode because they go to the screening.
There's an episode where they go to a screening of Ghostbusters after having gone to the film set of Ghostbusters to bust a ghost that was bugging them that was stopping the production. There's even a great scene where they look at the script and they're like, Aykroyd, Ramis, and Murray. What is that, a law firm? So
was it Lorenzo Music who read the line too?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, great.
But yeah, so it was called The Real Ghostbusters because, one, they couldn't use the name, and two, they're the real Ghostbusters upon which the movie Ghostbusters were based, which freed up the cartoon to do a whole bunch of stuff that wasn't movie canon.
Right.
But it's the cartoon series that's canon, and the movie is the non-canon version of the real Ghostbusters.
An interpretation
so there you go. So Ghostbusters 2 you can write off if you want, because it's not the real Ghostbusters.
It's someone's adaptation of a thing that got made into a movie.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That's so good.
And now you can see why it was killing me to have all of you talking about it except me. What a theme song the original had.
It's funny because this was in the days when you didn't have satellite TV. So what you had was a newspaper that had a TV guide in it.
Yeah, which you said.
Ghostbusters. You'd be like, yes! And you'd go to tune in, and it would be this.
And I remember watching
Yeah.
this and being like,
Yeah, so many kids got confused because like they'd see Real Ghostbusters and they'd also see this and they're like, they're both Ghostbusters. What's going on?
Yeah. Like, where's the proton packs?
Yeah.
And what's the ape doing?
This show is so bonkers.
Yes.
Like I've got it, and it's insane. It's almost as insane as the live action series upon which it's based, which is super bonkers. And it had a short-lived toy line that was actually super sweet.
I remember that, yeah.
Like all of the toys for this were like, and they were made by a company that didn't really make toys either. Like it was their first foray into making action figures, and they nailed it. But it was for a really crappy series that nobody liked, and so the toys are kind of hard to come by. But man, they made the car, and it could transform into all of its different variations, because that car could turn into a plane, it could turn into a boat.
Right, yeah. I
And
remember the plane
they also
part, yeah.
made like the play set for the Ghostbusters. Yeah. And unlike most action figure lines of the 80s, it included all of its female characters.
oh.
Damn.
In its first series, like it didn't wait until
Because they were like, we have to make all these now.
Yeah, exactly. Like they didn't wait to see if the line succeeded before they made their girl figures. They put them right in the first line.
There's a weird sort of like mercenary nature to making toys, I find, where it's like, let's just make a bunch of toys and put them out there. Especially back in the 80s it was, right? Because cartoons were made to sell toys especially, but I mean, they essentially still are. But that whole thing of dump as much as you can, and who cares, the kids will buy it because it's based on a cartoon.
Yeah.
That is not true.
Not true
No.
at all.